Hey, what's going on? Justin back here with Modern Mixing. I've been a little bit MIA, but I have a reason for that. Well, I ended up having to reboot my system, go back to Windows XP. Unfortunately, it sucks because it's a lot slower, but for recording purposes and stuff like that, it just works better with my drivers. Yes, I have a very, very old system, but my external gear is all updated. It's just my USB device that goes into my computer is very, very old. But lucky for me, I have spit off everything, so all my device does is it just talks to the computer. There's no sound whatsoever imparted onto my mixes or my recordings with it. So that's a good thing. But bad thing is the drivers really suck and they only work well on XP. But now that I have that sorted out, I had another issue. I couldn't really record any videos because it wasn't recording sound because of XP. It's glitchy with the program. So now I got to figure something out. I might have to do a dual boot system or something. I don't know. But anyways, I'll figure it out. Have no fear. I have a lot of cool things that I'm going to be doing. I have a compressor, I guess, type of series, if you want to call it that I want to do. That'll probably be about 4 videos. And also I want to do a complete breakdown of a mix from start to finish. I'm not sure how many videos that's going to be, but it's an acoustic song, so it's not a full song yet, but I thought I'd help some people digest some things by starting out kind of small. It's about 4 or 5 tracks, I think, maybe more, maybe 6, I can't remember. But yeah, so I figured I'd start out small, and I'd break down the whole process from start to finish, why I did everything, what I used, and yeah, and hopefully you can learn something from that. And this one I just wanted to talk about the master bus, what I use, and to see if maybe you can incorporate into your mixes to maybe make your things a little bit louder or a little bit more polished. But what I do is, on my master bus, I'm not looking to replace, you know, say a mastering engineer or whatever, but I'm trying to get my stuff as loud as possible so that it competes with everything else out there. Sometimes I've been successful enough that it was louder than other mixes, and sometimes not so much, but it's in the ballpark. So at least when people listen to it, it's not unfamiliar territory. At least it comes close to it. So in this particular track, and by the way, sorry, before I continue, I'm recording with the new system, with the new operating, well, it's an old operating system, XP, but the recording program won't record any sound from my computer, so you won't hear any sound, but I don't necessarily need it because I'm just going to be doing talking, so you get the pleasure of listening to my voice, I guess. But this is more of an explanation of what I use, so I won't actually be showing you any samples, but I think it's pretty simple enough that you'll be able to get it, and you can take it and use it on your mixes. So what I tend to go for is, nowadays anyways, is just an EQ and a limiter. But I used to before use like a tape saturation type of thing, but over time I've just kind of started to like the sound of my mixes without it. So I've just been leaving it out. But in this particular case, I did use an EQ, and I did use the Mac, or the L2 Ultra Maximizer, and L2 is pretty much the staple, I guess. But EQ changes from time to time. Usually, what I'll do is if I use an EQ, I'll take out some bottom end if I use it. And not all songs get it, but if I do, generally what I'll do is like rolling something off around 40-50 hertz maybe, and then I tend to look in this region here around the 400 to 500 and pull something out, usually no more than 2 dBs, and I'll just play around until I feel like the track's opening up a little bit more. But in this particular track I didn't do that, but I did pull out some mid-range around 2500. I guess I just felt the track was getting a little bit edgy, a little bit too harsh on the ears, so I just pulled off a little bit of that frequency. Also with the maximizer here, it looks like a Jurassic setting here of -11, the threshold, but on this particular mix, I actually mixed it pretty low with a lot of headroom, so my peaks were only about -10 to -11. So this is maybe shaving off a peak here and there, but I didn't do too much limiting on this track. And I also left the ceiling at -1. I don't normally do that, but I think this was an acoustic, so I left it open a little bit so that things wouldn't be completely at 0. In most cases, though, it's not uncommon for me to leave it at 0, maybe -1, just to keep it shy of peaking at absolute 0. But I'll also play with these settings. I usually leave it on 24 because that's what all my sessions are in, but I'll play with the dithering and also the shaping, and until I'm kind of happy with the sound. And they all do something to the sound, sometimes bad, sometimes good, and I'll just listen to what I like. Sometimes it's absolutely nothing, and sometimes, you know, whatever it's doing, you know, I don't know the exact algorithms of why it's doing it, but sometimes it just sounds better, so I just leave it like that. With the release, I generally leave it on the arc. It does a pretty good job of I think it's auto release something. I think that's what it stands for, and it does a pretty good job of you know, in like syncing up with the track as far as the release time. But again, I'm not even really taking off that much. Usually at the most I'll take off like 2 to 3 dBs at the absolute most. So so yeah, if anything, I would leave it at a fast release if I didn't have something like that on. But that's it. I mean, you don't need anything too fancy. I think if anything, most of the work is done inside the mix and not on the master bus. If anything, I don't even put anything on the master bus till I'm at least 60-70 % done the mix, and then I'll start bringing it in just to give me an idea of what it sounds like when it's loud and, you know, a little bit squished or whatever. And then I'll generally bring the EQ in, you know, maybe towards the end, like 90% maybe, I don't know, somewhere around that area. But yeah, that's all you really need. If you're gonna add any saturation or distortion or whatever, I would say do it in the mix. But experiment, you know, if you want to throw it on the master bus, go for it. You know, I've used it for a long time. I used some analog emulators of, you know, analog stereo bus emulators, you know, tape emulators and whatever, and you know, they did the job at the time and I liked them, but now I just like it without it, so I don't use it. So, you know, experiment, use whatever's comfortable, and go from there. All right, so till next video.